Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next edition of the Act and its Impact, and this is the continuing series on depreciation. In the previous edition, we spoke about componentization. I thought I'd illustrate this with a very small example. Look at a classic case of a windmill. There's a mast, there are the blades and the nacelle, and then you have the other fitments. Now a mast is both a material component with a separate useful life. Your mast may not last as long due to weather conditions. So in such circumstances, we would capitalize this asset in the base of its components. So that's what your componentization is all about. It's true of aircrafts and engines, and there are several other illustrations which are available. Then we come to perhaps the most complicated part of this depreciation adjustment in this Act. Now, this Act says that you will have to evaluate the useful life of every asset that is sitting in your fixed asset register as at the date of implementation of this Act, which is in this case 1/4/2014. It says if you have an asset which has a continued useful life beyond 1/4/2014, when evaluated on the basis of the useful life specified under this Act or as per technical advice, if it has a useful life, you will depreciate it over the remaining useful life. However, if this Act does not have a useful life, then you will have to write off except the scrap value. Where do you write it off? You can either adjust it in your P&L account or you can write it off against your retained earnings. Now the first version of Schedule 2 only spoke of adjustment against P&L. Then Schedule 2 was amended to say you may also adjust it against retained earnings. Let me illustrate this with a very simple example. Take the case of a laptop. Let's say you bought a laptop for 60,000 rupees some time back. Let's assume you decided to take no scrap value. Now the laptop under the earlier Act had a 6-year validity in terms of its useful life, whereas under the new Act it's only 3 years. So let's assume you had a laptop as of 1/4/2014, it was only 1 year old. Then you can still write off the laptop over the remaining 2 years now, which is 14-15, 15-16. Suppose the laptop had already finished 2 years. Whatever is the carrying amount, you will have to write it off in 1 year. If your laptop is finished 3 years as of 1/4/2014, you will have to write off the entire laptop excluding the WDV this year itself. 4 years, you will have to write it off this year itself. 5 years, you will have to write it off this year itself. So, when this manner of adjustment, you have a choice. You can either take it to P&L or you can adjust it against the retained earnings. Now, I hope I've made this aspect very clear. Now, one more important thing is, this Act specifies a 5% WDV. Is it compulsory to have a 5% scrap value? Sorry, it's not, scrap value? No. The guidance note issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India says, as long as you have a technical opinion, you can also have a different scrap value than what is prescribed under this Act. Now all this has resulted in one more new question. Suppose the assets that I have in my books are second hand. How should I estimate my useful life? Should I take it from the year in which I bought it in my books or the earlier owner? Now in estimating the useful life, it's very clear. You will have to take the period as considered by the previous owner as well. Now this whole depreciation change is going to be very challenging because there are lots of small companies which only used to maintain tax block. So an asset-wise detail may not be available. In those cases, I would suggest to you that you go back in time, go to the last 5 years and try to ask your client to rebuild the asset register. This is not going to be very easy, but this has to be done because it's likely that this aspect of depreciation adjustment itself will come up for review. Now the other thing, the Act is silent on what to do if there are revaluation reserves. This is a challenge that we'll have to potentially resolve, and maybe some guidance on this can be expected. So ladies and gentlemen, that was on depreciation under the Companies Act 2013. Do write to me if you have any specific questions. You can mail me on sripriya@spka.in. Thank you very much for this patient hearing.